right, since it seems like this conversation around money and worth in the social work profession is not going away, I wanted to at least offer my thoughts because I actually think that the entire profession has it wrong, and there is a different way that we could be doing things so that not only the profession can benefit financially, but individual social workers can actually finally see the rewards financially from their efforts. So first of all, I want to acknowledge that social workers often complain about low wages, working overtime. I mean, these things are germane to the social work profession, as well as funders and organizations and companies complain that resources are too expensive and they don't have all of the resources for manpower and just budget cuts and all kinds of things. So this conversation around money and how much we deserve in the profession is confounded with all of these different variables. We understand that. But one of the things I think that we are missing as a profession really speaks to the heart of who we are as social workers. Now, I know a lot of us feel like we were called to the profession, and this calling, I believe, is one that of a spiritual nature. And if you believe that too, and yet we're not acknowledging the spiritual component or the spiritual aspect of everything that we're doing, then I think we're really fundamentally shooting ourselves in the foot. So let me back up for a second and just introduce myself. First of all, I'm Eva Ford. I'm a social worker, I'm a mindset mentor, and I'm an online business coach. And on this channel, we talk all about money, mindset, and motivation to help you live your richest life. And I always say, if you know you're meant to make a bigger impact and you want to have a bigger income, you're in the right place and you definitely want to subscribe. So turn on the notification bell so that you know every time I upload a new video like this one, where I'm really ranting about this conversation about money and worth and wealth in the social work profession, because again, I really believe we have it all wrong. We're forgetting that not only are we biological, psychological, and social beings, but we're also fundamentally spiritual. And it gets really sticky in social work, I know, because we don't want to push our spiritual or religious beliefs on other people. But I think if we essentially are forgetting that we are here having a human, a physical experience, and yet we're spiritual beings, I think we're missing a huge part of our power in social work to turn the conversation around when it comes to money and to change the money in our pockets for better. Now, there is a book called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace. If you have not heard of this book, I encourage you to pick it up. It's a free book, as a matter of fact. Now, it was written over 100 years ago. What Wattles says in the book is he says that there is a guaranteed scientific way to get rich. And he says that if you follow the formula in his book, you will get rich. He says it doesn't matter your age. If you have the competence to follow what he's saying, it doesn't matter your profession. If you follow the direction and the guidance in his book, then you will get rich. And I have to say, that's a pretty big claim. And yet I've followed the guidance in his book, and I absolutely see the correlation of wealth in my life. So I just want to highlight a few things that he says in the book and submit them to you as social workers. Try them on, see if they work for you, and maybe start a conversation. Maybe we can revolutionize the social work profession and how much we all are taking home at the end of the day. But one of the things he says is that we first have to acknowledge that wealth and the desire for more money in our lives is a natural one. And he says that we can look around all in nature and there's this desire to grow. Children grow. There's a desire to grow in us, and the desire for wealth and money is a natural one. And when we deny that, we deny the nature of things. And besides that, the more money we have, the more good we can do. And the next thing he says is that we've got to accept and believe that there is a source from which all things flow. And he says that that is really the first fundamental thing to understand in order to have the things that we want. Once we acknowledge that there are things that we want. And he says that once you acknowledge that there is a source, you can call it whatever you want, call it the universe, call it God, call it abundance, call it the divine one. But once you acknowledge that there is this source, then in order to have what you want, you've got to just line up with that source, with that spirit, with that energy that is a part of you. Now, I have to say, I was raised in a spiritual, religious environment, as a matter of fact. And so this concept hasn't been hard for me to understand, but it has been difficult for me to reconcile along with my social work belief. Because one of the things that Wallace says as well is he says, don't focus on the poor. Don't focus on not having. That's not going to make you wealthy. And he says, what you've got to do is you've got to focus on becoming wealthy. Nobody can ever be poor enough to help poor people. You've got to be wealthy enough so that you can help the poor. And that was the part for me that was really hard to reconcile. But one of the things I've been able to do is, as I'm building my wealth, also give back. But refusing to focus on the things of lack and the things of limitation. And that's the next thing that he says we cannot do. You cannot focus on lack and limitation. That cuts off that source to you, because he says source is abundant and source has everything in the universe for you. So one of the things that we have to do is we've got to be willing, I should say, to focus on the abundance, to focus on the good, to focus on this belief and this idea that there is more than enough in the universe. Because as we do that, then we actually attract more of that into our lives. Now, if some of this sounds woo-woo, forgive me, but I have to say, again, this is what I've seen works, and this is what I believe is missing from the conversation when we talk in social work about having more money and having more wealth. And I forgot to mention a very important component that Wallace talks about, and that is expressing gratitude to this source, to this divine being. That is the channel by which everything that you want and desire comes to you. So I would have been kicking myself had I not included that. And I'm really curious to hear what comes up for you when you hear this gratitude component. So I encourage you to check out the book, come back to this video, let me know the role that gratitude has played in your overall life, as well as in your bank account. As a matter of fact, I'm going to end right there because there's so much more that I could say, but I know for a lot of us, this might even be a hard pill to swallow. But one of the things I really want to encourage you to do is to pick up that book, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. And there's a second book I might even recommend called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Those two books combined will help, hopefully, to transform not only your mindset, but your spirit set around wealth and money and worth, and being able to give even more, because that's what we signed up for when we decided we wanted to be social workers. So guys, thanks so much for being here and for listening to my rant. I believe you can dream, be, do, or have anything you want, but it starts with your mindset. So make sure it's a rich one. See you in the next video.